This video will describe the format for the bar-style essay question on my exam. It will also offer several study suggestions. The bar-style essay question on my exam is modeled on the format used on the Ohio bar for evidence questions. There will be one question asking you about the admissibility of 3 to 6 pieces of evidence. You will have 30 minutes to write your answer. You may either handwrite or type your answer, but the space is restricted to either 2 sides of a lined sheet of paper or 3,900 characters including spaces. The exam will be closed book. In the question, there will be a simple fact pattern about a case. Ohio bar questions typically involve 3 to 7 separate pieces of evidence. For each piece of evidence, you will need to identify the relevant rule, accurately state that rule, and then do a simple, definite application of the rule to the facts in the question. Note how tight your time will be. Let's say that the question contains 4 pieces of evidence. After you read the question and spend a couple of minutes digesting it, that leaves you only about 6 minutes per issue. So your answers must be short and to the point. You will not need to discuss nuances or do an elaborate analysis. Typically, you will not need to follow up your application of a rule with a 403 analysis. For example, if the issue is whether evidence of a subsequent repair is admissible under Rule 407's Other Purposes Clause to show ownership, I would expect you to state Rule 407's prohibition and other purposes exception, apply those rules to the facts, and then simply note that admissibility would be subject to Rule 403. This bar-style essay question type of test emphasizes issue spotting and knowledge of the rules. Issue spotting is critically important. You must identify the key issue. Ask, what objection would a party use in court? There is no need to discuss rules that obviously are not implicated. For example, there is no need to explain why the evidence is relevant if it is obviously relevant. Use your time on the issue that matters. That is all I'm giving points for. Choosing the right rule is essential. If you use the wrong rule, you get 0 points for that issue. This is the single thing that students have most trouble with. I suggest that, as part of your preparation, you identify issue spotting flags for each major rule. Ask yourself, if there is a 407 issue on subsequent remedial measures, what must the question include? The evidence will have to be something involving a repair or other change which happened after the plaintiff's accident or injury. When you're studying each rule, this seems obvious, but the process of thinking through what my question must have in it to bring this particular rule into play will help you recognize it when you are rushed, stressed, and perhaps even a little overwhelmed in the exam room. Knowing the rules is also critically important. You must be able to state every rule. You do not need to give me a verbatim description of the language in the rule, but your description must be accurate and it must include every requirement. You may state the rule as a list of requirements, as I typically do on my slides. During the exam, you don't want to freeze up on how to write the rule, so I suggest that you practice that skill in advance. Write out your rule statement without looking at your notes for each major rule. Do it over again until you can do it comfortably for every rule. Let's look at how you should structure your essay. Organization is essential on a bar essay. The Ohio bar graders use a holistic grading method, and they are each grading hundreds of exams, so clarity and readability are extremely important. I do use a specific grading key, but clarity and readability matter to me too, so you should discuss each piece of evidence in a separate paragraph. And you should label each paragraph with either the numbered subpart or a brief description of the piece of evidence. Occasionally, there will be several issues regarding the same piece of evidence. This typically comes up with hearsay, either because the evidence involves multiple hearsay or includes a confrontation issue. If there is more than one issue, use a separate paragraph for each. You must get organized before you start writing. It is tempting to get going right away, but you cannot afford to go back and redo something. Read through the question first, then read it again more slowly and note down what the relevant rule is for each piece of evidence. Then check how much time you have, divide it equally among the subparts, and start writing. Okay, so in the essay, you need to accurately state, you need to spot the right issue, you need to accurately state the relevant rule, and do a simple, definite application of the rule to the facts in the question. You should only use the facts provided. In my questions, I try to supply every fact you need, but if you think you are missing necessary facts, note that by saying, for example, if this fact exists, then using that formula will show me that you understand what fact you need. Also, you must write well and spell well. On the bar, it's holistic grading, and for me, I expect a level of professionalism. In answering bar questions, CRAC is the standard form, but the parts that really matter are the rule and the application. If you state the right rule, I will know that you spotted the issue, and if you do a proper application to the facts, I will see that you reached the right conclusion. You do not need to waste time on fancy introductory sentences. It can help to use a formula. Start your essay with under, then give the rule statement. Start your next sentence with here, and then apply each requirement of the rule to the facts. If you need to wrap up, start your final sentence with therefore. In taking a bar-style essay question, the biggest problem for students tends to be time. You should divide your time equally among the issues. There is a set number of points you can get for each issue, so spending 20 of your 30 minutes on the first issue cannot possibly make up for the points you will lose on the issues you don't reach. Okay. If you're not sure of an issue, I suggest that you do it last. This will help ensure that you get all the points you can on the issues that are easy for you. In grading the exam, I give credit for an accurate statement of the correct rule and a description of how that rule applies to the facts. But note, if you just restated the rule without specifically explaining how the rule is met on these particular facts, you don't get any points for application. Also, I deduct points for distracting sloppiness, typos, grammatical mistakes, other messiness. I understand the occasional typo, and I understand that you're operating under extreme time pressure. So minor mistakes will not result in a reduction. But if your exam is littered with typos and other sloppy mistakes, I will deduct points, so make sure that you reserve a little bit of time to proofread. Finally, a couple of study suggestions. Again, for each major rule, I suggest that you identify issue spotting flags and practice writing out your rule statement in advance. In class, I will give you a practice exam. You should carefully compare your answer to my sample answer. Identify what you need to improve and then rewrite your answer. It takes time to rewrite, but actually writing your answer in the correct form will help you learn and remember. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.